Welcome, welcome, welcome back. Welcome back to Real Talk. And we know that have been waiting for all of us to get back together on this great day. I don't know about you guys, but it's a great day here. A little bit warmer than usual, but it's a great day. There she is, my co-host. But we are here just having a good time and going to have some conversations today. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back to the family. We are a woman's platform that is on live stream to have just real conversations about everything and about all types of things that involve women, period, right? What take is the women's take on it. So today is no different. We're going to be able to move forward on this, and we're going to talk about the topic of Juneteenth because that just happened a couple of days ago, and we want to make sure not to miss this opportunity to talk about it. And to some people, it may be new, other people, it may not be, but we want to be able to talk about it from the women's advantage. Okay. So I am Dr. Kim Brown Barber, better known as Dr. Kim. I'm the CEO and founder of Journey to Becoming, where it's all about the journey and getting to becoming and all of those destinies that are in your life, right? Becoming, never too late to become what you're meant to be. And also we have my co-host, none other than, that's so cute. But we will. That's one thing you'll find out about our platform. It's real talk. Okay, it's like that's your key. The queen of feeling fabulous.
Right, I'm the queen of feeling fabulous. Rochelle Marie Lawson, owner and founder of Blissful Living for You, and the Brave, Bold, and Unstoppable Women's Summit Tour. And coming up in August. First stop is you'll have to find out later, but I'm honored to be here to chat about Juneteenth. So it's going to be cool. Yeah, welcome to the show, everybody.
Yes, most definitely. So we have with us our guest panelist, Dr. Colette Harris. I'm going to let her go ahead and kind of introduce herself because she has that long last name that I'm sitting up here like reading it, and it's like, okay. I'm going to let her do that.
You know what? You can just call me Dr. Colette, but Colette Matthews, and I'm honored to be here. I am the founder and principal consultant for diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging consulting firm, Harris Matthews Consulting. And so, talking about Juneteenth and having the honor of being with Dr. Kim and Rochelle, I'm just here and participating in the space and looking forward to our conversation.
I love it. I love it already. See, already I can tell this is going to be good, right? From all the dynamics, because for everybody, the co-hosts, one of the co-hosts are actually in the state where it actually happened, in Texas. So I'm just saying, it's going to be good to hear from her about like how that looked there as well. So that I can't wait. Okay, so I'm gonna get to the questions because I already know, and I'm not gonna get to ask all of them. It always happens. So first of all, let's talk about what Juneteenth is, because for some of our listeners or viewers, they don't even know what Juneteenth is. So let's talk about what Juneteenth is, and then what it means to you. So of course, what it is, we know it deals with what I call the final freedom and liberty of enslaved people back in June 19th, 1865. Though the Emancipation and Proclamation came out in 1863, it took till 1865 for the 13th Amendment to have the Emancipation Proclamation to abolish slavery and for it to get to our brothers and sisters in Texas. So that kind of gives you a little bit about, I won't give you a history lesson or nothing yet, but, just to kind of give people who may say Juneteenth, what is it? This will give a little bit of education on it. And then you can always go and look things up and find out about it as well. I always encourage people to equip yourself, right? So let's talk about what does Juneteenth mean to you? Because in lots of different areas, I remember the event that we just finished going to, one of the questions that were asked was how many people knew about Juneteenth and how long you knew about Juneteenth and when did you hear about it? So I know it's a lot of questions, and like I said, I know, and I have even more that I'm not even going to get to ask. I already know that. So what does Juneteenth mean to you first? Let's just talk about that, and then we'll go into rolling about like when and where and how you found out. Let's start with you, Dr. Colette.
Well, Juneteenth for me is a historical context. I learned about Juneteenth in college, but it was kind of glossed over in, a history class, a required general education history class. And I think I'm from Sacramento, California, and I think that there was a gentleman from the South who brought a Juneteenth celebration like 20, 25 years ago. And it started to be celebrated, but it was more of a festival. And so I think the confusion about, what really is Juneteenth, there's been more of a historical context now for Juneteenth, and then reenactments, and then also, who's, affected by Juneteenth and what Juneteenth is not, in terms of, people trying to use the colors of red, black, and green. And, some people saying it should be the red, blue, and white. And we could talk all this whole thing,
right
about the flags and which colors. I don't know that that's as important to me as much as it is historical, and that what role women played in Juneteenth as well, and what happened after Juneteenth to Black people, enslaved people, through Reconstruction and onto the Civil Rights Movement, and even to today, because people are like, "Happy Juneteenth." I'm like, I don't know if it's a happy, I don't, I don't feel that way. So I'll stop there, but it's important.
Yeah, because you getting into my other questions, but it's okay.
I knew that. I knew that.
You can feel that. You can feel that, right? That's why I like, let me pull back. I'm gonna pull back, but it's all good because this is all pieces that I want to bring out, because these are pieces that we're not talking about. All right, co-host, what's going on?
So I learned about Juneteenth when I was a little girl. My grandmother was from Houston, Texas.
Ah, okay. Yeah. See, I knew it was going to be juicy coming from Texas. I knew
it. Well, I'm not from Texas. I'm from.
I know, but I had a feeling.
I'm a Silicon Valley girl, but my grandmother, she would share things with us about her experience growing up in Texas. As a minority woman, or a woman of color, so to speak, and how she really did not like Texas. And that's why she left at 17 when she got married to my grandfather. But with regards to me learning about it, when we were young, that her and all of her friends that actually migrated from Texas, some part of Texas, whether it was Houston, Sherman, Tyler, all these little towns and places in Texas, they migrated to California. They all became friends, and all their husbands were serving in the military at the time. So it was kind of like this Texas camaraderie. But they would get together in June and have a big old barbecue and just have the best food. Well, every holiday we had barbecue. But the summertime was like in June, it was like, okay, we had Memorial Day, and then we would have another celebration in June. And it was Juneteenth, and they didn't really go into a lot. My grandmother didn't talk about a lot. She had a huge disliking for oak trees because of what she saw hanging from oak trees growing up. Disliking, and she lived really close to Atherton, and so she never really talked about it other than it was to be in a celebratory state, and so. Came together with food and all of that kind of stuff, but they really never talked about it. But boy, did they party, and they did blues music, some BB King, and they did have a really good time, and it just transcended into us kids. Yeah.
So that was when you were young, and like you said, 10 years old, even, right? So
younger than that. It was probably
younger than that.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
every year we would, every year they was doing this, and so as I grew up. I would say probably like a freshman in high school. I was about 13, 12, 13. Then I started learning more about really what Juneteenth meant. And not necessarily to celebrate, but also to recognize
commemorate,
what had happened and why we need to honor June 19th. And so it became more, how can I say, heartfelt and internal as I've aged, so to speak. This week I was at Charleston, South Carolina. So that's a whole nother story of my experience.
Yes, it is. Yes, that's a look.
But,
that's a 26 minutes. We can't get to it, but I tell you what, look it up. Look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's really good to know, because it's like I'm hearing different parts, like, one in college, another early on, but not really understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've met people that just found out about it in their adulthood. I mean, and that's what some of our conversations, just finding out in the adulthood, and whether the stories have been told going down, it has not. I'm finding a lot of people that just had no idea about it until their adulthood, and all of a sudden, why has it become known now? What happened? Like, let's talk about what happened to bring it all of a sudden to their attention, to now that it's an actual holiday, right? That so a lot of things happen between you finding out, Dr. Colette, and you finding out way back then when your grandmother was commemorating it, to now, when it took, how many decades it took. You know what I'm saying? To get to this.
Yeah.
That's right. You see where I'm going with that, right? So how can this commemoration help African American women move forward? What role did we play in it, and do we play in it as we go forward? I know Dr. Colette kind of started talking a little bit about the pieces, but so I'm gonna let you go ahead, Dr. Colette, and move forward with that. But talk a little bit about that, and I want to get to this other question. This is, I definitely got to get this question in. So let's talk about this first, and then I'm gonna try to get one more question in before our time is up.
And I guess, it's really a matter of knowing your history, not just from a, formal education point of view, but educating yourself. And so it does depend on how your community then begins to celebrate. And you keep saying it, of look it up. I know that there are many entities trying to ban different books and things like that.
Yeah.
But it is our grandmothers, our ancestors telling us about different things. My grandmother's from the South, and although she didn't talk about Juneteenth, she took me to the South when I was 11, and it was valuable. So the things that, the role that women played, in Reconstruction, and then going on to the Civil Rights Movement. But, when we look at 1865, I was born in 1965.
Oh, wow.
Y'all do that math. And so,
okay.
1965. So, I mean,
right.
Really, my birth is 100 years away from 100 years away from. So we're a few generations, in some cases, a couple generations from, freedom. And what does that mean today? I think that's really what's important, of looking at voting rights for Black women in particular, and how Black people have just moved the needle in terms of people getting elected. And that's why it's really important to think about our history and know how it impacts what happens today. So I just put it in that context, that women, historically Black women in particular, are moving the needle. And, if we don't know our history, we are always going to continue to repeat that. So we didn't know that we were free.
Yes.
And then we get the right to vote, and then we don't vote. So it's important right now to go. Many people died. What happened after people were freed, in terms of indentured servants, and what kinds of work opportunities existed for across the nation, not just in the South, but 50% of the population still lives 50% of the Black population still lives in the South.
Yes. And that says a lot, but it also says the other 50% where, that they're not in the South, right? That speaks to, that's a whole nother story that we could talk about, but we won't talk about that today. I know we don't have time, but we will come back to those things. Rochelle, talk to us.
So I think with regards to African American women, traditionally the storytelling and history of the family lineage was told to you by your grandmother or your grandmother, some matriarch in the family. And I see today a lot of that going away. And so the wisdom and information that gets bestowed upon us through the storytellings of our grandmothers, so to speak, is waning. And so I think that's why a lot of children today don't really have a grasp of what Juneteenth is, because it ain't something that's taught in school. Because if it was, more people would be able to embrace it and understand that it affected everybody, not just Blacks in Texas, but everybody, and it's carried forth.
That's right.
I'm Dr. Colette. I was born in 1965, and it wasn't until the 60s that women that looked like the three of us got an actual right to vote. And so I think it's important for us as African American women to continue telling our children the stories of our ancestors, because they're not going to learn the truth in school.
That's right.
I didn't learn the truth, and I know y'all didn't learn the truth when you were growing up. They taught a little bit, washed over it, whitewashed it a bit, and then we're going to be satisfied with it. But there was so much more behind that, and economics of slavery and the impact that it had on people that looked like us. And so the importance of Juneteenth, I think, has to be, we need to talk about it in our families and educate our children. A lot of diverse families, biracial, triracial families.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter, because as long as you have some Black blood in you and you look Black, you're going to be considered Black no matter what you mix with. And it's important for you to know
history.
Your African ancestors came from and what they went through for us to get to where we are today.
Exactly. I love it how you ladies, you pulled from all of the pieces saying, we're missing some gaps that we need to fill. The storytelling gaps. We're not carrying the story on like, back in the day, the stories were told so they can be passed down, right? That's not happening. You could around the table, everybody's on some sort of online or screen this, screen that, but not really being able to sit and tell the stories and hear the stories. And I think, that's vital for us to hear, that the storytelling and passing down people's heritage and culture are important. Just like anybody's heritage and culture is important to them. You cannot discount anybody else learning about their heritage and culture. It's very important. And this is all part of that culture. And so that's vital. So how does this very topic that I know everybody knows about, and they're going to be like, oh my God, yes, she's bringing it up. How does Roe versus Wade impact women? Because this is a women's platform. How does it impact women, and how does it impact even more so African American women? Let's talk about that. I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually start with my co-host on this one.
Oh. Ooh. And so here's the thing. Roe versus Wade, to me, it doesn't matter whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. The fact of the matter is that we're allowing someone external of our gender to tell us what we can do with our bodies. And that's the point. Next is going to be, well, you know what? You can't wear your hair blonde. Or, we got our racial freckles because they're just too cute. Or what, the fact of the matter that we're allowing other people outside of our gender to tell us what we can do with our bodies, but we can't dictate to them what they can do with their bodies. They still can get their enhancement products all day long and create havoc, which is why one of the reasons why Roe versus Wade came about. The other thing is, I think there's a misnomer that there are more African American or women of color utilizing abortion or the right to abortion, when in fact,
come on with it. Come on. That's what I want. That's what I'm fishing for. Come on with it.
The numbers are there are more non-women of color getting abortions than there are women of color. And it seems to be this misperception that because women of color that might be on some kind of assistance sometimes do have to seek those means. It's elevated. Now, when you have a population of people that are smaller, of course, when they do something, the numbers and the percentages might appear to be larger. But when you have a larger population and you have large amounts of numbers, because that population is large, you can skew those numbers to look any way you want. And so I want to tell everybody out there to do a little research, and you will find that the numbers that they're projecting and all that stuff they're saying about women of color utilizing abortion and all of that to circumvent whatever it is, do some homework, because you'll be blown away at how reverse it is. And second of all, Nobody should have a right to tell anybody what they can do with their body. You don't live in that person's body. You don't know what happened to that person. You don't know their story. You don't know their journey. You don't know. And until it affects someone in your family, whether it's rape, incest, they just a hoe, whatever, until it affects someone in your family, you will not know how to deal with that. And we've seen it classic so many times that, people steer, for instance, with the pandemic. People they were blowing it off until they started having people they know, love, and care about dying. Then it became us, even those that thought it was fake, when they experienced it in their family, their whole life change, turn around. So with regards to Roe versus Wade, we need to get out there and vote. And the shame on all these women here in Texas that have allowed this state to take away their right. It's not about your abortion rights or pro-life or pro-choice. It's about your right to do with what you want to do with your body. And until these women can get that in their head, we've got a whole lot of work to do. Because right now I see us going back, and we're going back. How many years? 60 years?
Yeah, easy.
Right? Yeah.
Easy.
So what's going to be next? Yeah. The next 60 years, they're going to take us back to wearing dresses and dresses that were the necks up to here. It always starts very small, y'all, and it becomes that little cinder that causes a, fire, a blaze. So to speak.
Yeah, very important. Very important. And that's why I brought it up. And even with Juneteenth, because it impacts us as Black women, we need to pay attention to what's being said. Like you said, the misnomer and all these pieces. What does it really mean? Dr. Colette, I want to give it to you because our time is ticking.
Our time is ticking. I want to make sure. You know what? I can tell you that abortion comes up every time we start talking about voting. That it becomes an issue. It's a values issue that you can't win the argument, and it is, as if you ask me personally, I'm not of an age to have children or have children, and that season has passed for me, but it is the problematic of women's bodies and women's right to vote and women as a whole. Because if you connect Juneteenth to Roe versus Wade, we're talking enslaved women where our bodies were dictated by white men, and that we had babies by white men, and we weren't in control of our bodies. And then you move it into now where losing the right to make a choice for yourself. But I'd like to take it even out of that. It's the value of Black women, that we have to value Black women before we devalue Black women, in terms of saying that, we are the ones, because you're right, Rochelle, we are being painted as the ones that are using abortion as a way of birth control, and that government assistance is being used for abortions, and that Black women are the face of that, of out here having all these kids, and it's to incite white men and white women to vote, women to vote. So, I think we really have to be careful about Roe versus Wade. And, again, California and certain states that are saying, we're going to be sanctuary. You can come here and, have abortions. But I think we need to value our bodies, because, they're not talking about mandatory vasectomies. They're not, who gets women.
Right. Hello, mic drop. Where's the mic, Rochelle? Yeah, we have this thing on our program where we do a mic drop when it is profound. That's a profound moment right there, mic drop.
Yeah, and I just really value Black women. When we say Black lives matter, Black women matter, and our vote matters. And we have been voting in such high numbers that we have, some key races that we just have. Stacey Abrams, and what Stacey Abrams was able to do in Georgia, and what's happening in California in terms of Karen Bass running for mayor. I mean, there's some phenomenal Black women who are running, and our face needs to be heard. Our voice needs to be heard. Kamala Harris, in terms of a vice president, we have a Supreme Court judge now, in terms of Black women, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
Right.
They're giving us little crumbs and say be happy, but we're not going to be happy with just that. But Roe versus Wade, people need to look at that, but I also need to just say value the life in the bodies of Black women who often were wet nurses for. Okay, we won't go there. We won't go there.
Yeah, but because our time is there. But a mic drop again, yes. But there's many things. Like I said, I already knew that this was going to be a conversation that it kind of continues and it just morphs into more things. Just like we were talking about what the connections are, the Roe versus Wade, the voting rights, all sorts of other pieces that come along with it. And more women getting into politics, and especially being able to support, all women as we get into politics, but especially African American women. And with that, I will say, and I will officially announce here that I am running for councilwoman in my area. And this is the first time I've announced it publicly. So I'm sure somebody's going to get a hold of this and be like, this is what I heard. Yes.
But that's all right. Run and tell that. Run and tell that. Run and tell that, and run and tell them why. Why you are running.
So so officially announced on Real Talk. So there you go.
I love it. I love it. Great. Congratulations, Dr. Kim. Congrats.
Well, it's going to take all of us to get not only myself, but other, women that are running in this race that's coming up in November. We need everybody's help and their hands on the plow. So to end everything really quickly, you have 30 seconds. How can other women of all skin colors be able to help and embrace this commemoration, but movement now? Yeah, commemoration. Yes, that's great that that's happening now, but we're talking about after that, like now. How can women of all color be able to help to support this cause and movement? And I won't even say movement. I will just say human freedom. Because it's not a movement. It's human. I tell people these are human rights. Human freedoms.
And that's it. It is a movement. It's a movement back to social justice, of really looking at social justice, of the foundations of our country. Nothing happens without there being an impetus for it happening. I mean, if you look at George Floyd, you look at women, Sandra Bland, who were impacted by things that are really social justice. And so when we talk about people of color, then it went to, Asians being attacked, Mexican Americans in terms of immigration. And so that's my 30 seconds. But, we just need everybody to understand it's a social justice. It's social justice.
Yes, it's definitely social justice. You're right. Rochelle, you want to close this out?
Congratulations to you, because in my home I'm Tracy, and I know you know where Tracy is, Dr. Colette. When I first moved to Tracy, it was all white, and there was a lady that was trying to get me involved in various things, but I was a little bit too outspoken to be on city council and the planning commission and all of that. But I am happy to announce that all these years, 28 years, having a place in Tracy, we now have in Tracy a African American female mayor. So never give up, because things are wonderful. And I'm telling you, Tracy is a good old boys.
Okay, this is good to see.
It was
good to hear.
But things are changing, and so the message is just we can't give up the fight. We have to continue. African American women are the least looked at as the gifted ones in societies, and we are truly the gifted ones in society, and we've been gifted to take care of their babies and everything else, their husband, the babies, the field, everything. So just keep the struggle going, and not making sure the struggle, but just keep the movement going forward, and never let your voice die down. Share your stories with your children and your grandchildren, because it's the stuff we need to keep continuing to bring and keep in the forefront of our young ladies' minds as we continue to move forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Colette, for being with us today. Thank you, everyone. Whether you're listening, whether you're viewing, thank you so much. Come back so we can have more conversation. This is for a women's platform of all colors. And just so you know that, you're hearing Juneteenth today, but that's because we want to make sure not to exclude the African American woman. Because so many times when we have women platforms, we're excluded. We want to make sure that all women are a part of this conversation. So thank you. And don't forget, go vote. Take care. Bye-bye. Submit. Subscribe. Bye-bye.